All right, well, welcome back. Second part of part 9, the Defiant Wings Defiant 28 build. We will be moving on to laminating the top of the wing. As you can see, I've got the whole bottom done. If you watched the first part of this, you saw me do this half. Did identical just on this half here, okay? As I'm reviewing, I see a little wrinkle here, a little part that hadn't stuck down. So, I'm always looking at all the seams and stuff and making sure all the seams are stuck down really well. All right, so now we're going to move on to the top. So I've already cut the back about half an inch off the back of the bed here. Set my set the wing down in the bed. Let's get some laminate. Let's move on with this, huh? So. Same thing on this one. I tend to go to the far side of the opposite side of the center. Okay, so far side over here. Now, what's going to happen when you're coming up here and doing this part? You're going to have to put a little slit here to accommodate the different curvatures here. Okay, not a big deal. Moving on. Make sure I got enough here on the front in order to overlap down onto the bottom. And here we go. They always stick right down the middle. There we go. A nice press. So again, I tend not to drag too heavily. I give it, it's very, very light pressure when I move it like inside it like that. I don't know if you can hear that. And then I press down really good. If you tend to press down and drag, that's when you put wrinkles in your airplane. As you're going along, you just want to make sure that the airplane is still lined up correctly in the core. I usually look at the center and just make sure it's there, and give it a little rock, make sure that it's still in the beds properly. That is something that's critical. Again, this airplane, back in the beginning, we talked about how it's got washout built into the wing. Washout is a twist in the airfoil as it heads out to the from the root to the tip, and that washout helps with basically keeps the tip of the airplane flying, the tip of the wing flying, while the root may stall. So the tip is basically flying at a lower angle of attack all the time when compared to the root of the wing, and it helps with stall behavior. Let me tell you, this airplane can pull some G's. I went out earlier today and flew at a park. It was drizzly and everything, and as soon as it cleared up, I was out there. Love this airplane. Okay, so now I'm gonna give this about an inch or so, an inch of excess. I want plenty to wrap around to the bottom of the wing when we get to that point here in a minute. That effectively doubles up, because if you remember, we wrapped around from the bottom to the top, and then now we're going to go from the top to the bottom. So now we're doubling up the laminate. So like if you were to hit like a tree or something, it's not going to crack right through the laminate. It's going to be pretty tough. All right, so I'm just going to give this leading edge here a little slit. You don't have to go too far back. I don't know if you can see how as you slit that, now you can kind of see that overlap there, right? So that's why you have to do that. Otherwise, you'd have a nasty wrinkle. All right, so we just want to rock the iron up. And as I'm moving the iron here, everywhere I apply heat, like so say I applied heat in the forward half of the iron, I don't move, you know, basically every area of application of heat, I don't move that whole area forward. I only move like a half of that forward, so it's like 2 times application of heat and pressure to the same area before you really move on from that point, if that makes sense. It's clear as mud, right? So what I did before I started this, as you can see, I bent the elevons to their full, as far as they would go down. See that? As far as they would go, and I taped them in that position. So as I come up to that point now on the top, I can move right on to the elevon part of it. Versus before, we kind of had to pause a little bit. You could do that on the bottom side too. You could wrap the elevons around and just kind of tape them in position. But remember, at that point, you'd be putting tape on the paint itself, and you risk peeling some of that paint up if your tape was too aggressive. So now what I'm going to do is just trim this excess off here. I'll leave, not a lot, but I don't know, maybe like 3/4 of an inch or an inch. Because remember, I want to wrap that aft trailing edge up and around and lock it there over the bottom part of it. Okay, so I'm going to come onto the nose here. Hope you can see this in the video. Sorry if it's a little bit tougher to see, but so this little piece here, I'm just going to trim off like that because I'm not really terribly worried about that. Okay. Yeah, just touch my iron on some paint. So when you do that and you get this and you get paint on the surface of your iron, it drags really bad on the laminate. So that's why it's very important to always have a clean iron. I just use my Homo surface here because it's very, very mildly abrasive, probably like an 8,000 grit really, but it's enough to clean paint off of this when it's hot. Other tricks, Kevin Pratt tells me he uses lighter fluid on a rag on a hot iron and it cleans it right off. I've never tried that trick, but I believe him if he's telling me that. Kevin started building wings like 14 months ago or so now, and he's got like 20 airplanes now. So he's become a master builder in the span of that time. Okay, so I'm just wrapping the iron around the leading edge. Ow. Okay. Now at this point I'm not concerned about being in the bed because I'm not applying any forces that will twist the airfoil. I'm just pressing back against the leading edge. So that's why I'm holding it in my hand. I've had an airplane come out of lamination crooked and they suck. Like an airplane that I built, it was a fast one, and it had a little tiny warp. I actually measured it with some incidence gauges. One of the outer panels in it has a warp of 0.25 degrees as I measured it, as accurately as I could. And at 130 miles an hour, that's a noticeable turning trim problem. Now once I'm done doing the top surface here, I may come back and just put another strip in right here that wraps around right to the top, just to triple this up, because this is really going to take a beating right here. And my iron's blinking again, so I'm going to go and plug it to cool down for a moment. funny why, I don't know why it does that. It just seemingly randomly does it. So I think the thing that fixes it is allowing the iron to cool down just a little bit and then plugging it back in. I guess some kind of reset or something, I don't know. Maybe it's got some thermal protections built in there that's tripping. I don't know. And it's only running at 300 degrees, and I think it can be set all the way up to over 420 degrees, it says. So I'm gonna, now that I've got the elevon done now too, I can take this tape off. That one off. That one off. Take that one off. And you can see now, well, if I had the covering undone, but before, when we covered just the bottom, the elevon wanted to stay there like naturally, but now it's kind of just neutral. You see that? And it barely takes any force at all to make it turn. So this is a bulletproof elevon. I mean, you got the first layer of goop hinging there, and then you got a laminate on the top and the bottom. Bulletproof, I'm telling you. This airplane will be long gone, and those elevons will be stuck on there. Plug my iron on and see if I can get it to... Okay, so yellow means it's heating. I'm going to trim this while I'm waiting. All of these relief cuts that I make, they're always 90 degrees to the corner. Okay, green again now. So just rocking the iron over the edge. I'm going to be careful doing your elevons too, because these are unsupported, right? So when you're pressing the iron down on them, you can impart a twist along. You can impart a twist along that elevon if you're not careful. So just be mindful of that as you're covering elevons too. So make another slit at the hinge line. I'll leave some extra there, so that I can wrap around the end and lock that in and give it a nice good seal. The better you get these edges sealed on, the longer your covering job is going to last. Okay. Now, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's an unsealed edge there. So what you want to do is just rock the iron up over that edge and seal that edge there. Okay. Now you can't, if you run your finger, you can't feel it at all. Okay, so the end there. I always have tons of these on hand. Like I got a whole drawer of them, the small ones like these. As these get dull, just go to a new one. One of the most useful tools I've ever had in my shop. besides me. Useful tool, get it? Just make sure you seal all these edges. Anywhere there's a cut edge. Okay, we're going to leave the battery bay covering until the very end, right? Leave that there. Make sure you see any clear areas that you want to seal that down. Okay. Then you want to kind of hold it out at arm's length and just kind of see, does it look like it has gotten a warp on there, you know? And then you can hold it, you can set it back down on the bed. You know, put some weight on the center section and just press it and make sure it doesn't you know, press down, or if it's not, you know, curved up like this or twisted. This one's looking great. So now that this whole side of the wing is laminated, I mean, this thing has just become incredibly rigid in both in torsion, bending, everything. All right, so that's it for this one. I'm going to finish up the rest of this wing, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.